Okay, so it's been a while since I've done one of these. As you can tell if you've been following me for the past month, No Shave November is done, so I'm back to my more Lex Luthor-esque appearance and less Wolverine. So, Iceman versus the Flash. This is one that initially I thought would be easy to do, because you have speed, heat, and friction on one side, versus ice on the other. And with Barry Allen, because I understand his character a lot better. So of course, we're gonna go through these. Now, the big sad with Iceman is he's become both incredibly powerful, depowered, then repowered, not as strong. So his levels have been all over the place, and I'll get more into that a little bit later on. So, we'll just get right into this. Intelligence. I'm going to give this to Barry Allen, forensic scientist, tremendous tactical mind, and you know what? He's a fantastic detective and a great scientist. It's not used as much because, you know, if you've got a guy like Batman whose primary mode is that he is, you know, an incredibly smart human, and if you put that with someone who's both super speed and is also an incredibly smart human, it kind of diminishes what Batman can do. If you go back and read some of the original Silver Age stuff with Barry Allen, the level of detail that he goes into when he's discussing things from a CSI standpoint is incredible, and we don't see that nowadays as much. Probably because, you know, now we're much more into the, I want to see the action side, I want to see the costume, not the person side. Findability. I'm giving this to Iceman. And this is more because when it comes to what he's doing on his off time, he's a member of the X-Men. He is part of a team. Or he's part of X-Factor. He's almost always been part of a team. The issue with the Justice League is that this group of individuals brought together for a purpose. Then they go their own separate ways. Where the X-Men, there's much more of a familial bond. So he's actually had a lot of time training with people either like Psylocke or Wolverine. He's also trained with Captain America. So he actually has a pretty good acclimate when it comes to physically fighting. We don't see that as much with Barry Allen's Flash. We just don't. He doesn't have the need for that level of background strength. This is because Iceman, depending on how you define his abilities, he has shown the ability to increase his overall mass and actually become significantly stronger. Where we don't see that with Barry Allen. He pretty much just has speed. He doesn't have any additional sort of abilities added to him. That being said, of course, he takes speed. He's the Flash. Invulnerability. This is one of those ones that's it's bizarre. You're probably thinking, well, Flash has intangibility, so he can't be hit. I still look at invulnerability of, can you take a hit and be okay? Iceman has done things like ice armor, and for a while, the only person to really damage him was, I think it was one of Onslaught's goons, Post. And Post is incredibly powerful. I know recently they have shown, like, oh, like Dakin can put his bone claws through him. But for a very long period of time, Iceman had a severe amount of invulnerability. And he could take a tremendous beating, because his body was comprised entirely of ice. With the ability, of course, to augment the density of the ice, to actually become significantly harder, which is what he also does too when it comes to the strength attribute. So the ability to do ice armor, the ability to do his basic ice fields. I mean, he's done some things that have made him incredibly, a real high level of invulnerability. And durability to the Flash. While Iceman does have the ability to regenerate himself, as long as he has the time and the humidity available to produce ice to affect his body. Flash, this is one of the things I love, that they do this in the comics, and they do this, of course, in the live action show, is he has an incredibly high metabolism. Why? Because his cells are constantly regenerating. That's why when he runs and he gets tripped up, he's okay. You can break his leg and he's fine in a few minutes. So that speed courses all the way through his body and actually impacts the way his cells actually move and the way his cells recover. There's a tremendous amount of durability and recoverability. Energy projection. This is raw. What can you do at large scale? Iceman has the potential to freeze the Earth. He has hit almost absolute zero. And ironically, when it comes to the Flash, he requires a level of friction to be able to move. As you get a higher level of cold, it decreases the amount of molecular ability to actually produce friction and to move. So this is why someone like Captain Cold is actually a threat to Barry Allen. You think, is he do with an ice gun? Yes. But when you require the ability to have movement and friction, and then you apply freeze to that, it drastically reduces the ability for things to move. Take a character who's comprised entirely of ice, who has the ability to generate tremendous amounts of ice very easily. That's pretty impressive. Versatility. What Barry Allen has to his advantage at the Flash is everything related to speed, whether it's creating a vacuum. Iceman requires a level of humidity. He requires the humidity in the air to produce ice. He doesn't produce the humidity himself, he controls it. So someone's ability to manipulate the air around him, that's pretty impressive. So whether it's creating a vacuum, whether it's creating a vortex, all the different friction things that he can do. Technically, if Barry Allen really wanted to, he could very easily, well, plus the intangibility and the ability to be intangible as well as partially tangible. So if you wanted to be able to pretty much run through Iceman, depending on where Iceman is at his temperature range, and turn him into vapor, and then disperse his vapor, he technically could do that with the amount of speed that he has in his abilities. X Factor. I'm going to give X Factor to Flash, probably because he's dealt with cold-based characters, whether it's Killer Frost, whether it's Icicle, whether it's Captain Cold. He knows what to do when taking on an individual who is ice-based. Where Iceman, the closest person he's probably had to deal with that has a high level of speed, is Quicksilver. Quicksilver is not as fast as Flash. So we might have some, oh, he's a speedster, I've dealt with this sort of guy in the past, where Flash can be like, okay, this guy's comprised of ice, I've dealt with like a dozen people who have ice-based powers. So just the amount of knowledge that Barry Allen's going to have against dealing with someone like this is going to be a pretty significant impact. Now, it's time for a slight caveat. Iceman has been depowered and repowered. Around the time he was being trained by Emma Frost. Emma Frost actually helped him fully hit a level of near mastery of his powers. It's not ice. It's humidity. He has the ability to freeze humidity. He has the ability to control humidity. He has the ability to not only control humidity, but also control water. Yes, one time Emma Frost was training him, Iceman created a small army of ice people that seemed like they were moving independently. What he was actually doing was, they were solid objects, but he was able to manipulate quite a few of them, manipulate the humidity around them, and partially thaw them to do the movement. So they weren't actually moving, it was a stop motion, but he was doing it so fluidly they had the illusion of actual, pardon the pun, fluid movement while being comprised of ice. He also was able to become vapor, and travel as vapor, and control the humidity inside someone's lungs. So once you get to that level, where you can control water, ambient humidity, to the point that he was able to condense the humidity to make water, take water, increase it, and turn it into steam, move himself as steam, move himself as water. So of course he decided to not go with that amount of training, and instead seek out strong wisdom. Like, oh, you have weather powers, my powers are kind of weather based. So had he stuck with Emma Frost training, yeah, now all of a sudden he smokes Barry Allen. What's Barry Allen going to do? I'm going to use friction. Okay, you made him steam. Doesn't matter, he controls steam. Are you breathing? Because there's humidity in your body. Oh. He can freeze that. Oh. He can freeze all the humidity in the surrounding area. quickly. Yes, Flash can run through ice. But if you surround Flash in a several-mile sphere of ice, it's going to be a hard time getting through it. Especially once you realize you hit the level where it's like, oh, okay. Oh, okay. He's melting a section of it. Well, guess what? What he melts, I can refreeze. And he can refreeze it near instantaneously. So now all of a sudden you have Flash effectively inside an ice globe. Then you can just go, oh, well, you know, as he's making his way through it, I'm effectively self-repairing whatever he's trying to do. But Flash still needs to breathe. That's why you don't see Flash running underwater very often. And he's like, oh, what? There's moisture on your eyes, right? Huh? When you blink, there's a lot of moisture on your eyes. That's why you get dry eyes. He technically could freeze his eyes. Freeze his lungs. Whatever's humidity, he could freeze it. Of course, it's had to go away from that because you eventually hit a point where it's Superman syndrome. It's like, well, he can do anything. Oh, because there's humidity everywhere. We'll put him in space. If you think in space, there's no humidity. But the constant vacuum of space is naturally freezing. Could he powers work in space? Maybe. But beyond that, his powers were near limitless with the training he got from Emma Frost. Makes sense why they abandoned it. So if he had the Emma Frost training, yeah. Now all of a sudden all Barry's, oh, this guy has, you know, I know what his abilities are, I know how to handle this. And he's probably like, oh, no, you have no concept of what I can do. Because the moment Iceman could become steam, now all of a sudden he can become intangible. Okay, now how do you fight a mist that can create ice at absolute zero instantaneously anywhere there's humidity? And by the way, he can become a cloud of humidity. So in a normal fight, Barry Allen takes it. If you put Iceman with Emma Frost level of training, take it to its full completion, oh yeah. Yeah, Barry's gonna put up a good fight, but the moment Iceman wants it done, it's done.